Hey everyone, Hollow here. For the next 18 minutes, we're going on an MMO dive into the title Dragon's Prophet EU version. Quick shout out to the Gamer's Attic, made with love, not time, just for you. I'm not working off a script either, so good luck everybody! So let's start by clarifying that I did try Dragon's Prophet NA when it was available. It was ran by Sony Entertainment, and I do believe that the NA servers completely shut down as of 2015. I would like to say around November, if anything. I actually didn't like it as much as I liked EU, which I did come to after, and I didn't come after the NA servers shut down. I actually came to it before the NA servers shut down, and the reason for that was because Dragon's Prophet EU had a lot of exclusive dragons, and some of the dragons that really convinced me to make that switch was Michael Sass had a set of dragons and I really liked them a lot, and they just didn't exist in the NA server, so I was like, yeah, screw it, let's migrate here real quick before I get too involved. Plus it seemed like the community in NA was a little bit more elitist, and it actually felt kind of dead. EU was really where the party was at, so I went ahead and I did that. Speaking of Michael Sass dragons, this is Magmaron. Magmaron is actually one of the Michael Sass dragons. I was unable to collect them all, which is actually probably a good thing because Michael Sass dragons are actually really expensive anyway. So yeah, definitely save some money on that one. I'm actually going to kind of show you a couple of my dragons because I mean, it's about dragons, so I definitely want to show you some of the stuff that I was packing with me when I would go out and do my leveling and stuff. So this here is one of those land dragons. Essentially, they don't fly. They don't fly. They run, which you don't really use these too much, but if you're going questing, I think they're awesome for that, because when you've got like a small area where there's just a lot of quests and you're just trying to get from point A to point B, they hit higher speeds a lot faster than your dragon, which flying dragons hit faster speeds when you sprint. One of the really awesome things about Dragon's Prophet EU is actually that they were very involved with their player base. So we actually had this really awesome thing, specifically with Armor and Dragons, where they would let the players design some armor or dragons, and they would actually let you submit those onto a form, right? So pretty much the players would come in there and they would vote for what their favorite armor set was, depending on the competition that was going on at the time. Same for the dragons, and whichever one got the most votes from the player base, they would actually bring that dragon or armor set into reality. So this right here is Cryon, and this is one of those dragons specifically. He was a player design, and he got the most votes, and they took the concept and they made it a reality. So that's kind of, for me, something that you don't actually see in a lot of MMO RPGs at all. That level of involvement and actually letting the players design some of the items that, you know, could be brought to reality inside of a game. That's definitely not something you see very often, and I had a really big appreciation for their commitment to their player base. So Cryon Dragon is actually one of my favorite dragons. He's absolutely adorable. Look at that smile. How is he not just the cutest little thing you ever did see? Anyway, so I want to actually kind of talk about dragons. Obviously dragons. We're going to talk about the Durgs. Meanwhile, please admire my precious character here, you know, cool armor and stuff. So, yep, admire it, yes. Yeah, so obviously I'm an archer. I believe that they had called it the ranger class. It's nothing special, you know, just a ranger. Same thing in all games, right? You shoot the bow and you call it a day. So the really awesome thing about the dragons is there's so many different species and there's so many different kinds, and for me, I would have to say that I did try to collect all of the dragons. I don't recommend that you try to collect all of the dragons. That's actually a very big no-no and a very bad idea. So there's two ways to get dragons. Please excuse me. Through the mall, there's a lot of eggs, so you can pretty much buy a dragon. And there's 4 types of currencies to do that. So you have your regular currency, which you buy with real money. The second one is free currency that you can obtain through the game through certain specific quests. The third one is kind of like purchase rewards, and the last one is event currency. So depending on what's going on through the event, which sometimes they do have dragons, you can go ahead and purchase those with that currency as well. Now, one of the funny things about buying the dragons and hatching them is typically dragons purchased or obtained through this method, they are actually not very good dragons. So it's actually better to catch dragons in the game, and they will have better stats that way. Isn't that that's just grand. So the cool thing is, yes, you can actually catch dragons in the game. They are tameable from outside in the world, certain specific ones, and they are usually turn out to be some of the best dragons. The other way is that it's possible to purchase eggs from the auction house from other players, and as well as you can actually find some eggs just stranded out in the world, which is, always makes for a really cool random event, and it always feels really good to just be flying about minding your own business, and then boom! Oh my god, there's an egg! Happy Easter! So, yeah. So pretty much, as you can see, I really do have a lot of dragons. A lot of dragons. You don't want to do this, and the reason you don't want to be like me and have this many dragons is because, well, you see, being an archer, and this goes for any other class, you kind of, you sort of kind of, yeah, like, there's different dragons. There's defense dragons, there's health dragons, and there's attack dragons, and there's, other dragons for other things and different purposes and different situations. And being an archer, what I really lack in is usually defense. So naturally, I would want to pair up with a defense dragon. So pretty much that defense dragon would be like my better other half when I go out on my adventures. In my case, I don't like the aesthetics of the defense dragons. I actually instead substituted that with a health dragon, which is my Silveron, which was the first dragon you saw with the leaves. So my Silveron is pretty much my better other half. As you can see, I'm level 93, and while I don't remember what the level cap was, I wasn't that far from the level cap, so I invested a lot into Silveron, and I built this dragon up as best as I possibly could, and me and my Silveron have gone a really, really long way together. So, yeah, me and my Silveron, good buddies. So let's do a quick breakdown on the actual dragons. So for our dragons, there's the dragon types, there's the ability types, the attribute points, and the bonus rate, which pretty much make up the main stats for your dragons. And then we have our dragon processes, which you're able to put your dragon to work either training the level or training the skills or the materials for crafting and such and such. So you also have your skills training, which is obviously it works to increase your dragon's skills. Kind of a little self-explanatory there, isn't it? So gathering is the same thing, and it does have the game a pretty good crafting system where a lot of the things that you do end up crafting are housing items, but you can send your dragons out to gather those materials as well as gather them out in the world, and between the two of you, you can pretty much craft whatever it is that you are working on. So now for the fun part. If you take a look over to the right through all the dragons I've been flipping through this whole time, those are actually, the reason I have all those many is because most of those are actually fodder dragons. So the fodder dragons are pretty important. They, I like to sacrifice them. They're fodder. That's why they're fodder. I sacrifice them. I sacrifice them to the gods, and some probably go to hell. But I don't know, man. That's not my business. So, dragons. You sacrifice them because when you're leveling your dragons and you're training them up and all that, they have a soft level cap of 25, I believe, which is the max. And in order to kind of like break that soft level cap, you have to use something called latest provision points. And one of the great ways to get these latest provision points to break through that soft level cap is through the sacrificing of all of this the fodder junk, if you will. Yeah. So that's why I have so much junk. Then we have our field training. So our field training is when we send out 2 dragons on some kind of imaginary expedition to which they become really, really good friends and they teach each other their skill sets. So isn't that nice? Oh, so nice. Then you have your section where you've got your dragon companion, which essentially you can kind of your dragon can bond with a specific dragon, and I don't really think it's a dragon of your choice, so you kind of have to either have that dragon or pay 200 runes to reset or refresh and to see if you get another dragon that perhaps you do have. That way you can, create that companionship, which does give you a lot of boosts and benefits, which, for God's sakes, if there's one thing I never managed with even all the dragons I've captured was building a single companionship, unfortunately, so I can't say that I remember the benefits of that, as it has only been like probably 3 or 4 years since I last played this game. I am so sorry. Last but not least, you have your evolution skills, which once you have a dragon with a skill that you want, or you have skill sets that you had wanted for your dragon, you pretty much level them up that way. So I popped out here into the world because I wanted to show you guys a little bit of the dragons in action. So I've got my Magmaron with me, and everything here is a little bit too low level, but I'm going to try to show you the mounted combat as well. It'd been a while, so I kind of forgot the buttons, so it took me a second, but I'm going to do my best here to show you more or less what it looks like to fight mounted. Yep, I said that. So why don't we just take a moment to appreciate all the shots that we could have potentially had this whole time for every time I said or So I guess this is the perks of not really working with a script. So far, I'm doing great, guys. How about a big freaking thumbs up for all the effort I put into this video that I technically don't even have time to be doing, but I'm trying my best to make the time for it. So, let's go back a little bit, actually, so we can talk about some more about the dragons, because, hey, Dragons Prophet's all about dragons. The dragons, yeah, the reason I have that many, as you saw in my dragon lair, there's 2 ways that you hatch your dragons. So you can, when you have an egg, you can hold it, and people in town, usually this is for dragons that you really want to hatch, like important dragons. They will come and they will dance for your dragon, essentially, and they will hatch within a certain amount of days, and the more people that dance for your dragon, it will reduce the hatch time. But the tricky thing too is, which I kind of hated a little bit, because I ain't never had no friends, if you will, but they would come and they would dance for your dragon, and then if a certain amount of people would dance for your dragons, then your dragon would hatch with either the maximum potential of skill or the lower potential of skill. So if not enough people dance for your dragon might have not hatched with the most potential of skills. And the other way to hatch them is, you're about to see as we're loading in, look at all of those nests! Look at all of the eggs! This is what we call a secret apartment. Player housing is absolutely huge, and there is no limit to the amount of things that you can do with your player housing. They're very, very short on rules as to what you can potentially do and not do. So what's going on with this layer is, one of the most popular crafting items is the nests. And a lot of people essentially fill their secret apartments, or they will buy private land and build weird towers and houses out of just dragon nests. And the reason they do this is because you can have your friends and your guildmates and all of your good buddy old pals come over to your place and dance for a large number of dragons. The more nests you have, the more dragons that'll get danced for. You dance one time, you dance for them all. So isn't it great? People just secretly bust up into your house and throw a party with your unborn dragons, and then leave and you don't even know about it. I want to try to wrap this up anyways, so I kind of want to talk about a couple of other things that make this game really, really awesome. And guilds are really awesome. You should definitely always be in a guild. They do summon bosses that would require all your guildmates to come and kill it, and that's really, really awesome. I used to love doing that. Plus, if you get like flutes and stuff, you can actually like summon dragons to tame, but it has to be done in the guild hall. So it's really, really useful to be able to have access to the guild hall, because you can go into like this arena and summon them from a flute. That's freaking so neat. Summon dragons through flutes. It's so Peter Pan. I mean, that's not even related, but whatever. And there is like PvP and stuff like that, and you can PvP on your mount, which if you're into PvP, I'm not much of a PvPer. You can pretty much enjoy doing that with your dragons too, and I think you can actually build dragons to for battle, which is in the case where I guess the more strength dragons would come into play. The game does have a lot of events throughout the map, and there's a lot of general game events where you pretty much get to go out and the entire server is out like taming dragons that are part of the event, which is really, really fun to do together. A lot of guilds like to team up to try to help a certain player get dragons, because it's really you versus the whole server. So, you know, it's nice to have, again, your guild's backing you up. There's a lot of gear grinding in the game. There's a lot of dungeons and stuff like that, and the game actually really does have a lot of really cool elements that, you know, you can enjoy, and you can battle your dragons in arena as well. So you're not really short in any kinds of activities per se. I personally never was able to really get to the end game aspect of it, because as you can see, I was pretty much nearing my level cap and I hadn't quite got there yet. But I'd say around level 93 is when I started to see the orange gear, which was like end game gear, kind of start popping up. And if you're teamed up with the right people or you're in the right guild, you can pretty much get a head start in that even at level 93. It's just not that I wasn't in the right guild, but I was so much more focused on just reaching the level cap first and raising my dragons, because that's really what I enjoy doing the most. So that's kind of where I decided to invest my time, as opposed to already grinding gear. And for a quick look here, all these are actual like map copies of where I was just flying around of player housing. So as you can see, there's a lot of accommodation, and the really cool thing is there's a lot of different maps, so you can choose to live in the desert, you can choose to live like in snowy places, forest places. There's a lot of different places that you can live. So unless you're getting a secret apartment, then it really doesn't matter. But if you actually want to have a nice place outside, that's how you can do it. And customization runs deep with characters as well. But I'm just going to leave that there for another time. I appreciate you guys for actually listening to this redundantly long rant of a video. Don't forget to take a shot every time that I said or and I hope that you had a good time just flying around Eordia with me and my dragons.